Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar hosted by your friends here at Furniture Today. We're going to wait just a few more moments to officially get started so we can give everyone a chance to log on. Items to go over. First off, if you have any connection problems during the webinar, please try logging out and logging back in with the same link. However, if you can't reconnect, don't worry. This webinar is being recorded and you'll be able to watch it on demand afterwards. Second, during the webinar, if you have any questions for our panel, we encourage you to please submit them using the Q&A icon located at the bottom of your screen. We'll have a Q&A session after the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce your moderator, Ms. Cindy Hodnett, Executive Editor of Brand Development at Furniture Today.
Nate, thank you so much, and welcome everyone. We are so excited to talk about social media today with some of my favorite ladies in the industry. I'm going to let them each come on and tell you a little bit about themselves. But today we have with us Caroline Hipple with Norwalk Furniture, Breegan Jane, who is a friend of the furniture industry that you might have seen in Hooker's showroom, and Dawn Brinson of the Media Matters. So each will bring their unique perspective to the conversation. And ladies, we'll just go around and let each of you tell a little bit about what you do and how social media is important to your marketing efforts. Caroline, we'll start with you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Caroline, and Cindy and Dawn and Breegan. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I'm the president of Norwalk Furniture. Norwalk is a made in America wonder story where we have been making for 120 years. The company went out of business. People bought it unrelated to the business to bring it back. And last year we paid them back and bought the company for the employees. So it's a really great way to be doing business in America. And we handcraft custom upholstery.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. Breegan Jane, how about you, ma'am?
There we go. Hello. I'm Breegan Jane, and I have an interior design firm in Santa Monica, California. So I'm always sourcing, doing everything. My business has focused a lot recently on partnerships, thanks to a career in television, which has just expanded my ability to design and bring it to the masses. And I'm so happy to be here with you ladies today. This is a fun conversation. Thank you for having me, Cindy.
We are thrilled you're here. And then last but not least, Miss Dawn Brinson.
Hi, I'm Dawn Brinson. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Marketing for the Media Matters. We're a full service marketing, brand strategy, digital communications agency, specializing in home furnishings, home decor, interior design, and product design.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. So, we have a lot of conversations about social media, different platforms, what it means for the furniture industry at large. I'd love for each of you to tell us a little bit about the particular social media strategies that you've worked in for your company, and why is that important with regard to your role in the furniture industry? And I will let whomever wants to hop in first go right ahead.
Well, I'll start if that's okay. We help clients with their social media strategy, and each strategy is a little bit different. And so platforms are important, understanding who you are and what your goals particularly are. But for everyone, we should realize that as of last year, 88% of all Americans over the age of 11 owned a smartphone. So they have access to learning about us and using what we can put out there and becoming, brand aware and brand loyalists. So to me, it really is just another channel of appropriate communication, and also about customer engagement. And we can talk a little bit about that later. So that's the real crux of why we do what we do for our clients.
Okay, how about you, Brigham Jane?
I think that's so important because, we call it social media, but what's really available are lines of communication to a wide range of our client and customer base. We have the ability to educate. We have the ability to create identities around ourselves and our alignments, and we're able to tell those stories consistently. And it is an important role of marketing, I think, when it comes to individual businesses, designers themselves, products, how they're made, where they came from. I mean, it's really storytelling, I think, at its best usage. And it's incredibly important to my business. And I think you explained it perfectly.
You know, we're in such a visual business. And so we're really lucky, because our storytelling is so visual. And I found that social media just expands geometrically the way you can tell your stories. And, of course, I'm sure we'll talk about this as we go on, but it has to be grounded in who you are and what story you want to tell. That's the key, is really making sure your imagery and your content aligns with the story you want to tell based on your brand. But social media, I think, gives a little more immediacy and a little more fun, I think. And it's a certainly more engaging and permeable, I think, way to create a relationship with your community, right?
And Caroline, I'm particularly interested because you do a really great job of like highlighting the new introductions, each market for Norwalk, and even in between, and telling the company story. So have you seen like a direct correlation with that? I mean, do you have customers coming in, based on something they've seen on your social feed and buying as a result of that? How does that transition?
It really works that way. But it also, I started first, I started going to the Design Influencers Conference when it was the Design Bloggers Conference, just so I could try to understand what other people who my customers were thinking about and seeing. And it really changed my view of social media, attending that conference every year, because social media has changed so much. I think that was 8 or 10 years ago was the first one. And every year it's been so different because social media has changed so differently. But I think that both we show things, but also our customers show things. And one of the more interesting things is to watch how other people use our product. And so you get the best of, I'm sure, Dawn, PR, where a third-party endorsement, somebody else talking about what you do, and you can do your own. And it doesn't have to be so rigid. It can be done, at different cadences. And so, yeah, and we really do, before a market, start showing imagery. We start showing fabrics. We start showing, new shapes and some of those things as teases to come to market. And, at the Norwalk showroom, we've got such a great location. We're on the first floor of the main building. And so we know our job when you have that kind of location is to use color to inspire and so we've partly because of our social media outreach, but people tell us anyway that they always want to come by and see what colors we've chosen. What are we deciding to do this season? But part of that creation of that interest is the social media before markets, And yes, they do buy, thank goodness.
Yeah. So, I want to jump in with Dawn in just a minute and ask her about, how she advises some of their clients. But I'm kind of curious for each of you, like there's a lot of different types of social media out there, a lot of platforms. Do you guys use 1, 2, 3 all of them? Do you have different presence on each one of the platforms? Talk a little bit about that as well, how you delineate.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I was
you go.
gonna say, so I think one of the things that makes social media such a big conversation is that people feel overwhelmed by it, right? So I want to say that we post on every platform once a day across the board, but we engage where our customers are and spend our time there the most. And there's a lot of ability to set up automation, to retell your story. Like, we're on LinkedIn. Most people aren't posting to LinkedIn once a day. I'm posting there 4 or 5 times a week because I think that that's an important place to tell the industry and my colleagues what I'm working on, what partnerships, that's the root of a lot of business that I think gets overlooked by, let's say, like the new shiny penny, which is TikTok. TikTok for me takes up to a lot of my time to do it the way TikTokers are doing it. And so what I made was just like, I'm going to do it once a day my way. And I'm still there, I'm still engaged, but it still hasn't taken the primary focus of my business yet. That's still on Instagram. And what I think that people underestimate is, like, for those of us who remember like Facebook at the beginning, or, Spotify, or where did Clubhouse go? You know what I mean? This is a root of business, I think, networking that strengthens relationships. Like, Caroline, you were talking about even going to those events and the customers buying, and then they come in because they want to see the colors, right? We spent so much time unable to physically be in person, and it obviously expedited our usage of reaching out via our cell phones and everything else. But at the root of it, it's a connection point that everybody wants to feel. They enjoy resharing, Caroline, your company's photos because you guys take the time to repost them and make them feel seen, and so how many times or where is less important than connecting with your community in the way that used to take us airplane rides and, small dinners. We can still do that, but we need to remember to touch people individually, I think.
I think that's a great point. And I'm going to bring Dawn in because I know Dawn, you've got some pretty specific advice depending on who your particular client is in terms of where they should be, how they should be doing this, what they get right, what they get wrong. So talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
Sure. To Caroline's point at the top of the conversation, the real point of this is to engage with people in a way that is authentic and real and value-based to you and your brand. If you don't do that, then most everything else is lost on social media, because just like any other kind of interaction, people want to engage with brands and people that they feel comfortable with, that they trust, that they can develop essentially a relationship across a screen with. There was a recent study done that said that people who engage with brands via social media demonstrate a deeper emotional commitment, not just a connection, but a commitment to those brands. And they typically spend anywhere from 20 to 40% more on those products when they feel like they have engaged with a trusted brand. So it's all about the appropriate connection and keeping that connection and commitment with people very much the way you would in person. And so that can be done on any of a number of platforms, depending upon, your particular brand or your particular product or your point of view. We suggest 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 platforms. And as Breegan mentioned, some of them can be automated. Some work better, and we'll talk a little bit about this. The messaging needs to alter a little bit on particular brands. Some folks do really, really well on, for example, YouTube, where others might not. And so it really is an analysis of who you are, as a company, who you are as individuals, how much time do you have to spend? Can you create brand ambassadorship inside your company? Do you need to reach out to others like Regan to do that for you? Where is your platform and where are your sweet spots? And that's the analysis that we engage in.
And you mentioned this a little bit, but in your opinion, what do you think is like the thing that people get wrong most of all? If they're thinking about, they know they need a social strategy, but it is overwhelming, they're not sure where to start. What advice do you give your customers or your clients at that point?
Well, I do think that the one thing that they get wrong from the get-go is exactly what you said, strategy. They don't have a strategy. They think, oh my goodness, I have to be on social media. Let me throw some things out there. And they don't do it with the authenticity, with the intention, with understanding really who they are and where they can be and where they can shine on social. Just getting out there and posting things and doing things is sort of like standing on the street corner and yelling at cars as they go by. You really need to have a sense of what you're doing, how you're doing it, when you're doing it, and be thoughtful about the foundations of it. Then you can branch off and do all kinds of fun things and try things. That's one of the things about social media, is it gives you a lot of breathing room to try new things and decide what works for you. But if you don't have that foundation to start with, you're just not going to win at this.
And
I think also people are often try to be too perfect. They're a little afraid of it, so they're very stiff. And that is not what social media wants. It wants to see a few flaws. It wants to see a little more humanity, I think. And one of the things I learned way back in my former storehouse life, the board asked me to put my face in our catalog, and I was really opposed to it. But I said, okay, it can be little and down in the side. And it changed the relationship right away. I can't even describe it to you. It was that there was a real human being, and I'm sure Regan Jane has experienced this. We sell inanimate objects, but we're a relationship business. So we have to let that relationship build through humanizing it. And it's often people that do it, or the way you tell a story. And the sites that are more interesting, more active, a little humorous, maybe, if humor is your thing. It doesn't have to be, don't force it if it's not. But being too stiff and too beautiful, and there's no room for a human being in there, it to me is a losing strategy, actually, because people are afraid. They're afraid, and they just want to post a perfect picture. So yeah. I think people want to see you more authentic than that. Your company too,
And I'm going to take this one back to Bregan, because, first of all, we all know and love Bregan, through market, through trade. And yet Bregan, of course, your brand, you are well known in the consumer world as well. And I think you do a really great job with your social channels, because you do mix personal with a little professional. And, I'd love to just hear, like, from your perspective, how you decide, like, how much is enough or, not too much, and how that then transitions through your brand, both in trade and on consumer side.
And thank you for asking. And I love what Dawn said about having strategy, because that's what my company has in the background. We know we want to tell mom stories because that's part of our identity. We know we want to make luxury attainable. That's part of my story. And we typically have a mapped out schedule of what we're trying to hit in storytelling so that we're hitting our main big points. There's a lot more wiggle room in how we tell the kid's story. Is it me talking about my children's book, which is much more polished, or is it the kids screaming, moms, please help me? But the messaging is built off of the strategy. So there's really a lot of thought that has gone into putting myself out there publicly and identifying what Bregan means that I don't think people often recognize. And it's been very interesting for me because we've done a ton of brand partnerships this year. I mean, with everybody from like Bentley to, you know, our big box retailers. It has been great for me. And I'm not in the millions, but I am very particular in what I want to be known as, that brands can feel comfortable aligning themselves with me, which I think is important, Caroline, sort of in the freedom versus the storytelling. You know, there's not too many bikini pics of me because that's not my brand. Now, if I post one, will I get some more likes? Probably. You know what I mean? There's parts of my personal life I keep very personal. And then there's vulnerable sides that I lean into. And I usually sit on those stories for like 2-3 weeks, run them by the team. And I'm like, are we really going to say this out loud? So that when it does come out, or if it's talking about, you know, being a single parent, it's thought out and not reactionary to me just having my phone in front of me for that second. So, and it's a forever dance, you know, we're always growing and evolving and moving, but what we have control of is who do we want to tell the world we are? And then how do we tell them that? And then you find your partners, you know, you find your hooker furnishings, and you find the story of Clyde, and you realize you have an ability to help, and everything aligns and it works, you know, because it comes off of these organic sort of business practices, right? Like some of the greatest businesses in the world were built off of people agreeing and how to scale up and what they wanted to be aligned with. For me, philanthropy is a huge part of that. My opportunities in speaking at charity engagements grew because I was authentic to myself, but told people I was doing it. So you're positioned to grow your partnerships. I don't know. Well, I'm still winging it every day, though. You know, it's like a little bit of everything.
And you bring up a good point. I mean, we are all heavily involved in the home furnishings industry. We are talking about a category that people live with every day. You know, we're in the most personal spaces with the products and the brands. So, you know, for each of you, and Reagan, you talked about it a little bit, but I'd love to hear just like what your definition of authenticity is, either for, you know, your particular brand, or, you know, Dawn, in your case, you know, how you coach clients on how to be authentic.
And I'll add just quickly on that. But for example, we have a lot of clients who don't want their homes photographed. This is a personal space in Los Angeles. Privacy is everything. I am known as a designer who's out there and public. There are so many projects you guys have not seen. And my PR agent, who I love, hates me for it because she's like, I need photos. And I'm like, but at the root of it, my business is building homes and their sense of privacy. So in that, authenticity can still have boundaries. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what we forget. I think we think authenticity and it's like, you know, and it's like, no, boundaries are important. Parents have them, teachers have them, kids have them. We need to have them for our clients and for our industry, but there's still a story to be told. And as long as we're not desperate to tell that story, I think that authenticity reads through. There's never a photo that I feel uncomfortable posting or that somebody doesn't want. You know, I'm never reaching. It's at the root of what we all want as partners. Even if on this round, I don't get that perfect photo, it's more important that at the core, I'm building a business of trust, especially when I'm outward facing so constantly.
Caroline, how about you? How do you create that?
Well, first you have to know exactly who you are as a company or as a person. Depends on which side it is. And I think in this day is people want to know who they're buying from and how it's made and what is it. And so for us, we try to uncover, no pun intended, you know, the upholstery and to show you how it's made. We show you our people. what they're doing. You can go on our website, you see videos, you see it in our social media. So it's education, it's a integrity thing. It's knowing who you are, what you stand for, and then showing how that's made up, you know. And I'm thinking of Norwalk, for example. And on the personal side, when I started doing, we were challenged at the first Design Influencers Conference I went to by a guy named Adam he was the Finger, and he got 1 million followers in the first year. And it's just this little pinky with a smiling face. And every day he posted something, and every day it was consistent, and every day. So his challenge to us was post something every day. And so I thought, oh Lord, how am I going to do that? And I really wanted to do it for my own self, to understand the arc of social media so I could help guide Norwalk as well. We have a team, we have a great marketing team that really do it, but I wanted to understand it as well. So I got involved. And what I found, though, is that I have a lot of following from our industry. So I have to be conscious of whatever I post personally has an effect on our business. So that's a very interesting, but I'm passionate about color and fabric, and everybody knows that. So a lot of my posts are seeking those things. I also, for my own self, think about my 6 godchildren and my 3 nieces, who I wanted to show on my own site, my own social media, that you can look out and tell stories. You don't have to look at you and tell stories. And there's something very healthy about showing other things. And so I noticed that in storytelling. And so I think education, sharing something somebody might not know, whether it's on the business side or my own personal social media, sharing an experience that I have that I think other people might like to understand, not to be brag. Nobody wants, look at me, I've done this cool thing. Nobody wants that, right? They don't want to feel worse for looking at your social media, whether it's your business or your own. They want to feel like, wow, that's cool. Or I could imagine that, or I had thought about that. So I think about a lot of those things when I'm thinking about what we say or do. And I think that has to do with the authenticity and the integrity of who you are also. But I think the days are over where people want to look at people saying, look at me, I'm so good. You know, that's not engaging in my opinion. And so I encourage other people to find other ways to engage than about you. You know, so much about you are cool. I don't know. I think we see too much of it. And I'm really thinking about the younger generations a little bit when I'm saying that, not necessarily me, but I don't know. What do you all think about that?
I think that's a great point. It's interesting because I don't know if any of you have done anything with this Be Real, with Be Real, the platform for there, but it's kind of the rage with like my teenage nieces. And the thing that they love about it is that you get a prompt every so often, and at that moment in time, you're supposed to stop and do the selfie or do something, what you're doing at that moment in time, which can be, they love it. I don't know if a lot of people would, but I think it speaks back to authenticity. So I'm kind of curious to hear from Dawn, how do you advise your diverse client base to their different levels of authenticity? Do you have tried and true rules, or is it kind of you take it as you go?
I think the one thing that crosses through all of our clients, regardless of whether they're a brand or an individual or an organization, is that we really work with them on what their culture statement is to begin with. Just to what Caroline and Breegan have both said, it's important that we understand what they stand for. It's not just a mission statement. It's getting down to the crux of what is meaningful to you, what is important to you as a company, what are those immutable truths, those non-negotiables for you, and then how do you express yourself out into the world? Do you do it with a great deal of fervor and color and passion and brightness and energy? Or are you a little more subdued in the way that you present yourself and your company and those sorts of things? So while there is, room for, and there should be room for every personality and every kind of flavor out on social media, the core of it is that real understanding. One of the people that I have followed through my career is not in the home furnishings industry, and he's in the media a ton right now, is the founder of North Face, is the founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard. And a few years ago, Patagonia changed their culture statement. They had had a mission statement about climbers and about hikers and that sort of thing. And in 2018, when you went on their website, basically it said, our company is in business to protect the world. And I was absolutely blown away by the shift that they made. And then obviously, last week, they announced that they are essentially giving their company away in order to protect the environment and everything that they are doing. So understanding where they were as a company and what was important to them actually promoted their ability to take the next step in what was important to them. And they are off the charts in terms of publicity and public relations right now, and what they even do on social media. So understanding who you are and understanding what's at your core underpins all of this. And then you can spin off with, oh, great, well, you're the kind of entity that would be perfect on this platform. For example, we talk about consumer engagement, because engagement's so incredibly important to translating this communication into some sort of action from a consumer. When you're on Instagram, studies have shown that positive messaging translates directly into enhanced engagement. And so if you're writing a caption, you don't necessarily want to start it with, don't do this on Instagram. Swing it around to, have you ever tried this? And you get higher engagement immediately. If you want to post something to Twitter, Twitter is the perfect place for, they call it an argument frame in the technical term of it, but it's not an argument. It's really those kinds of things where you are presenting features, benefits, logic, facts. So you can use the same information presented differently, or if your company is all about the fact or all about the logic, then a platform like Twitter may be better for you. If something like engaging with clients under the educational auspice, showing how something works, showing the features and benefits, then you can certainly use Instagram video for that. YouTube is also spectacular for that kind of format. So you pick and choose what works best for you once you know all of those underpinnings.
And Caroline and Breegan, what is your platform of choice? Or do you have more than one? How do you use the different platforms?
For us, Instagram and Facebook are neck and neck, actually. But we use YouTube a lot for, we have many training videos. Custom upholstery is a complicated situation for someone to learn how to navigate, order, do. So we've, in our sort of authenticity thing, we want to make it as easy as possible for people. So we use YouTube for our educational situation, mostly. But I would say the basics, Instagram and Facebook are our biggest. I mean, we do some LinkedIn, because I think it's a great business platform, and we are dealing business to business too. So, but I have my own TikTok place, but I'm not there with, we're not there with TikTok yet, but we need to be. At the Design Influencers Conference, the last speaker was this year was a young girl who was a DIYer. So she's in the middle of all these designers, and designers don't like DIYers much. But this girl did one DIY post that had 49 million views. 49 million. And so we were sort of all aghast by that. That was very interesting. I'm my own niece, and she won't tell us what her handle is, and that's really why I'm on TikTok, to try to find her. She's a world-class field hockey player. She's the coolest kid, but she loves fingernails. So she's got like 80,000 followers that we can't figure out what she's doing, all about her, nails and stuff. So we're like, how do you do that? But she won't tell us who she is, so we can't find her. If anybody have any hints, let me know. But I think we all have to experiment with the places that we're not very comfortable, because that's what this world is. It's like the Wild West of finding roots of, and if you are like what Regan was saying and what Dawn was saying, if you're true to yourself, it's going to fit on any platform, right? I would think. I mean, I think Regan probably does more of it than either of us. Dawn does it for her clients. We're a custom upholstery company, so we can't, we do as much as we can, but I think there are breakthrough ways you can tell stories on different ones, but you have to play to win. You have to get engaged and learn it, and then you're better at it, and you see what people respond to. I do notice that when I put myself in a post, it gets more likes, but I don't want to necessarily get into that feeding of that, but I know that it's the humanization of it all that is important, right? So that's an interesting quandary for me.
Yeah. How about you, Regan?
I mean, so like, I think it's important to know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. Like, I could tell you right away, we don't do much on YouTube, and I could do a lot more on Pinterest. But again, Pinterest for me went back to secret boards for actual clients as a means of communication. And that's the way that services my needs, you know what I mean? But we're Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok to Snapchat as soon as we can. You got to get on and know the new ones. But again, like Dawn was saying, if on Instagram it's showing the chair, then on Reels it's showing where you got the chair from, and then on Facebook it's posting it to a chair fan page, and there's a bunch of different ways to use each audience to the best of its ability. One of the things that I want to say, Cindy, just because I know we're on here to learn and educate, I am so blessed that I feel like I get to use social media outside even just our industry of furniture, and even greater with, some of our big, home furnishing places and our online retailers. And I will say that one of the struggles as somebody who likes doing social media has been a lot of unnecessary middlemen. And so I would caution our industry to make sure that we're not, like you were saying, Caroline, trying to make the post so perfect that the social media girl shows it to her boss, who shows it to the founder, who shows it, because it will be there for forever and it is important. But I find that it holds back some of the content creation that could be more organic when so many companies don't know how to enter it, and they're so nervous that everything's coming through so many layers of being stripped down that it's ability. And I think the only way to provide a solution to that is we do need to delegate more. I think you have to find a team member, and I've kind of always done that, and let them not be good at it one day. And what did you learn about stories, and why are we falling off? And really dedicate the person to the, place that you're posting. If the company's doing it and not one person, and that one person doesn't have enough, to be able to do it on their own, then it kind of gets almost like a chokehold. if that makes sense. So I really do think we need to bring people into the companies who can have these organic relationships like we were talking about, and act on the company's behalf, receive feedback and learn and do it again, but not be frozen in the perfectionist part of
Mhm.
working for a big company that's doing tons of business, and you're, a young girl out of college going, I don't know if I should post that. We have to empower people to try and tell our stories for us from a perspective we might not have seen, and then be willing to have a conversation about why or when or how that did or didn't work.
Regan, that is so thoughtful and inspirational. It goes back to one of the things that Caroline said early on too, is just try. It's
Mhm.
okay to try. One of the things that we have found from all the studies, and we spend a lot of time looking at research, is that consumers really give you points when you try and it's not perfect, and you try again and it's still not
Mhm.
perfect, and you keep trying. You get real bonus points for that, rather than, as you said, waiting and trying to make something special or perfect. Or wait, one, you're going to get left behind, because we know social media moves at the speed of light. And so while you're trying to make that perfect, everybody else has moved on to something else. And perfect just doesn't sell anymore. It
Mhm.
really doesn't. It's
Mhm.
it's not the platform. And to your point, it's so important to allow social media to breathe. If you are constantly trying to figure out social media and do it by committee, it's going to be like the old adage where, the designer started with a stallion and the committee ended up with a camel. So,
Mhm.
you know, just go with it, and don't let it get smothered by layers of things. Have guidelines, have those guardrails that you need to have up, but after that, go for it. Just try it. And to your point, if you post something, it can be deleted most of the time. You put up an ugly video of yourself. Oh, well, take it down. It's okay.
And it's just strikes me that thinking philosophically and strategically about your post is kind of like, I just gave a talk with the student designers yesterday on fabric merchandising. And what I said is we do a good, better, best. And we always leave room for risk. And it kind of makes me think of social media too, is, you want the basics of what people are coming to you. You want to deliver what they expect. Whatever it is that they keep coming, they expect a certain message or visual from you. So you deliver that. But I think we also have to engineer a little risk in so that there's some surprise and delight on occasion when your regular visitors are coming. It's a merchandising of your message, I guess, too. So don't be afraid to be risky on occasion. You don't want to have risk every day. You want what they're used to you from every day. But have a little something unusual for surprise and delight too is always interesting, I think.
It brings up a good point. Can you think of either something that you yourself did on social that fell flat but ended up actually working out in a positive way, or an example of someone else that you've seen who has done something that initially maybe didn't fit the mold and then ended up being a great thing? Does anything come to mind with that? Sort of like your bloopers, I guess. I don't know.
That would be me in a bikini. That would not work. Maybe Bregan.
I tried something that didn't. I launched a while back and nobody really paid attention because I put it on its own channel, a thing called Designer Reacts. And we were reacting to a lot of these DIYers or, videos that were everywhere. And it now has found its home inside my reels. But initially we wanted it to maybe be its own standalone thing. It was interesting how much I was attacked for any feedback that wasn't positive.
Oh, interesting.
There was actually a TikToker's living room that had a staircase in it, and then the after didn't have the staircase in it. And I made some joke like, oh, show us the same room. You know what I mean? And still applauded the design. The space was great. And I even said that. I was like, this is such a good room. You don't have to fake it. I knew nothing. This is harmless. You know what I mean? The community was like, the designer herself was not upset, but everybody was like, she had moved the staircase. So she messaged me and was like, oh, it is the same room. I just moved the staircase over here. And I'm like, great. Like, you know, there was not, but it did not work well. You know what I mean? Our authentic voice. And so I really had to learn how to speak to positives in a way that, like, to me, it's something I would say to any best friend, but there was a sensitivity, especially I think coming from an expert, somebody who's on TV, that like, I learned something, but I learned it over here on its own channel before I built it into my core brand. You know what I mean? So
Mhm,
you gotta
mhm,
try. You gotta try.
mhm.
Sure. And when you're talking about things that are unexpected, you know, the thing that popped into my mind is Wendy's. You know, we all have a sense of what Wendy's is and what they do and what they sell, but they have found huge success by being a bit tongue in cheek on social media, especially around their competitors, you know, and it's so unexpected that they get a ton of engagement for it. Some of it negative. Regan, you have experienced a little bit of that, you know, hey, don't say anything, you know,
Yeah.
discordant. But in point of fact, they really are kind of changing the message and the perception around what Wendy's as a staid, you know, kind of
Mhm.
so mainstream, so middle of the road kind of fast food restaurant is and how they react. And people have reacted actually very positively to that kind of tongue-in-cheek way that they go about doing things.
And they're doing it on Twitter, which is the
Yeah, yeah.
right
Yeah, which is
platform
the
for that,
exact
right?
perfect
So
platform for them.
like you were saying, it's important to know.
Mhm.
And what would you say to maybe the small business owner who, you know, is busy running their business and thinks that maybe they don't have enough time, or, you know, they're not quite yet sold on the idea of being on social media in whatever platform? Dawn, you know, we'll start with you. What would you say to that business owner?
A couple of bits of advice. You don't have to start everywhere. You can start where it's best for you, one or two platforms. Maybe that's Instagram and LinkedIn. So that's fine. If you're not comfortable being the visible person, that's okay too. You probably have people that you work with who can be your brand ambassadors for you. As a matter of fact, I read a study just yesterday that I'll share with you about this. And it said that 78% of salespeople who engaged in social selling outsell all of their peers. So maybe one of your
Interesting.
salespeople or multiple salespeople. Here's the other point that this study had, and I'm gonna read this too, that social selling leaders are 51% more likely to reach their quotas as well. And they actually report that activity, being on social, translates to 45% more sales opportunities. Well, hello, that's why Nordstrom's has their salespeople on there instead of some Nordstrom's CEO talking about it. So, you know, you could let others really engage on social as well. You can have more than one person be a brand voice. You can have trusted people be your brand voice for you. So those may be two little tidbits.
I think that's great. Caroline, Regan, we'll kind of wrap things up with your go-to advice for social media for someone thinking about either expanding, broadening, or even just getting started for the first time. What would you say to them?
I
You
think
want me? Oh, go ahead, Regan. I'll go last.
I think that one of the things that small business owners are good at is social media because they have no other choice. They have no other way of marketing. They don't have a built-in customer base. They don't have 100 years of history. And so they get in this exhausted mode of, I'm running a business, but I also have to post this pillow on TikTok and I don't know what to do. Follow Dawn's advice, come up with a strategy, make it a to-do list so it doesn't consume your life. Our phones are in our hands all the time. It's really hard to build a healthy boundary there. And so make it a part of your job, not what you're doing in the background every second, thinking you're not doing it enough, but you're doing it all the time and it just drowns you, right? But I do think that the person selling this pillow is a little bit better positioned than the person selling the table because they have their customer base, they have their purchasers, they know who's coming to market to see them and who's going to, fill out POs. They've forgotten to use the 1,000 sales reps, the people coming into the store, the packaging, the hashtag on the packaging. And so I really think that it's speaking to both because one has to do it based on need and is drowning in it. And I think the other doesn't know where to start and is losing their positioning to be a leader sometimes in something that feels unapproachable. So those are my ideas. Thank you, Cindy.
Great.
Great
Caroline, how about you?
ideas. So the first thing is to not be afraid. Let go of perfection, get on with progress. That's really important. The second is have a monthly plan, steeped in your culture. Who are you? Be very clear about who you are and how you want to tell that with what are images that speak to who you are. And then have a monthly plan. I found when I was first challenged to do it every day, I thought I've got to do this by month. So I did a monthly plan and that made posting it so much easier. And then get a team, get help. There are affordable help solutions. There are companies like Dawn's. There are people that can kickstart you getting your knowledge up. Norwalk, we have a great team. There are a team of us that think about this and that do it every day. But even the small, get some help and get started and get a plan, and it's not as overwhelming. But if you're like trying to get up behind a ski rope and you don't have the way to get up, you're going to get beat up by it. But if you have a plan and you get some help, you're going to find that it's fun. It can be really fun and really engaging. And you can make new friends that you didn't know. I mean, you have new contacts that come to you just through social media, new customers. And so, but don't be afraid. That's the thing I would say.
And can I
Fantastic.
jump in with one more thing, Cindy, just to
Please, yes.
latch on to what Caroline said. Creativity is not a switch that you turn on and off on a daily basis. We're not all creative all the time. So when you're feeling that kind of impetus of, oh, this is kind of coming easy and I'm thinking of these things, just give yourself a repository of ideas and opportunities and photos and all of that, which alleviates what Bregan was saying of the, oh my goodness, what am I going to post today? Stress of things. You end up having a little bit of a well of things that you can go for, to Caroline's point about creating a plan or sort of being prepared with, I don't have to think so hard about this on a day-to-day basis that it's really causing me stress and anxiety when I really want to put my stress and anxiety on trying to sell outwardly. So, just create when creation comes to you.
The other thing that we haven't talked about at all is being engaged with people that engage with you. That's also very important, is to respond when people respond to you. People take the time to say something, do something. They I think want something back too, so I think it becomes a whole cycle of experience. It's experiential,
Well, and Caroline, to that point, do you know that with brands, 1 in 7 engagements is responded to? So there are 6 out of 7 engagements that go unresponded to by brands and companies. That is a lost opportunity
Totally.
to create real engagement with people and to create those connections that turn into trust. And it's that trust that turns into opportunities and sales. So, just saying thanks or throw a heart at them or whatever it happens to be can change that dynamic immediately.
Mhm.
And that's a huge number. I mean, it's really, really surprising. So, I mean, what does that look like for each of you? Like, how do you have sort of a window of time that you try to respond within, or is it a certain time of day you go through it? How do you handle that from a time management perspective?
Airplanes.
Airplanes. Okay.
Airplanes. No, I don't know. I mean, I would have to, our team does that, for Norwalk. For me personally, I really mean it. It's when I'm on airplanes, it's when I'm doing it mostly.
Yeah.
But I'm on airplanes a lot. So
How about you, Bregan? Is there like a time frame you guys try to hit?
So we actually engage on all our comments for about an hour a day. So I have a team, I'm on there engaging as well, but I also have my team who know, like literally down to the detail, who my best friends are and that it's their birthday, and they'll text and remind me and remember to engage on the photo, because it is a job. It's a part of your business and it needs to be real and organic. But those people have been with me for 8 years. And so, if I forget to write happy birthday on my sister's post because I'm on a plane with no Wi-Fi, that engagement is still happening, and it's happening to the reality and the core of who I am. So it's I think it takes work. That's another thing. Like, and the more organized you are in your work, the less it drowns you. The more you sit at your computer and don't have a to-do list for the day, the more exhausting the day becomes. Social media should be treated just the same way.
Exactly. And what we do is we schedule times throughout the day where we go in and check and comment and respond and, forward things to the client if we need to have a question or if there's something that their customer service folks need to take care of. So we're managing that, but we're doing it at specific times throughout a day. And over a 24-hour period. Otherwise, you could just go down the rabbit hole of watching and commenting and all of that. And we do have other things that, we're all in business to do other things too. So that's what we do.
Well, ladies, I cannot believe it, but we are already like up on our time, which is great. I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface, and we'll be having more of these conversations. To our viewers, just so you know, this is the kickoff of our Retailer Playbook series for Furniture Today. And we'll be hosting these webinars on a variety of topics monthly. So we hope you'll join us for the next one. In October, we're going to look at photography and videography that can help you build your business. So we hope you will come back for that one. And again, Caroline, Bregan, Dawn, as always, you guys are fabulous. Thank you for sharing your insights and your knowledge with our viewers.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Caroline. Thank you, Dawn. Awesome.
I learned a lot from you all.
Same.
Thank you.